Master Your Mindset Radio, Episode 8.
Welcome to Master Your Mindset Radio, the show where we empower you to conquer limiting beliefs and transform your world with your gifting and purpose. Now for your host, Elizabeth Nader.
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode, and today's is titled, Being Used versus Being Used. Confused? I will explain it, trust me. But let me give you a little bit of background and what inspired me to record this particular podcast today. I spent the entire day today at the taping of a talk show with a friend of mine, Michelle. And for reasons that will be obvious at a later time, but I needed to see the behind the scenes. And I don't know if you've ever attended one of these tapings, but we were there the entire day. It was exhausting in the audience and around some interesting characters. There's a whole nother podcast, I'm sure, just from that experience. But I was watching everything and the producers who were revving up the audience and getting them to cheer and clap and do all those things and respond, and how the talk show hosts were, deriving their energy from the crowd, and they were whipping the crowd up themselves between shots. It wasn't live, it was taped. And so it was really interesting watching behind the scenes of all of that, and really, frankly, how contrived so many of these shows are, which is fine, but just something interesting to see. And I started talking to Michelle about where they were getting their energy from, and how the energy in the room made such a big difference as to the success of the particular segment. And as we watched the day go on, and it got later and later because they were running late, the energy levels really, really dropped. And the producer was like, come on, guys, you got to bring it back up. And even the talk show host would bring the levels back up, because they really feed off those energy levels. So having been in public speaking situations a lot and understanding all of that, I get it. They needed our energy high. But in this contrived setting, sometimes it was hard to do that. But it got me thinking, and I was talking to my friend about situations that I've been in, and what a difference it is when you derive your energy from people and when you don't, and how that makes you feel. And I said to her, what's interesting about that is that I get so much of a different experience and feel so different when I've been used versus when I am being used. What does that mean? We started talking about that. So let me explain. So being used, first in the positive, is something that really most of us want. We want to be used in our gifts and talents. We want to be used in our purpose. We want to be used to make an impact. We say in church all the time, let God use me, right? Let him use me to change lives. Let him use me in this situation. God, please use me. It's a commonly said thing. I want to be used. You have gifts, innate gifts. You have talents that you work on. You want to be used in your purpose, in your giftings, in your talents to change people's lives, whatever those gifts and talents look like. You want to be used by the right employer. You want them to make use of your gifts so you have a successful career. If you're an entrepreneur, you want people to use your products and services that came out of your ingenuity and your creativity. You want to be used in that fashion. As a parent, as a friend, as a spouse, you want to be used to make your friends, your children, your spouse's lives better. You want to be a positive influence. This is all about being used. And we all have a desire not only to belong really, but a built-in desire, I believe, to be used in a way where we make a difference, where we feel like we matter. So being used in that regard is really our heart's cry, isn't it? Being used in that regard is really confirmation that we are here for a reason. So I believe that is a very healthy need, and I believe it is really core to what most of us want to see in life. Now, let's flip to the other being used, and this is why I'm saying being used versus being used. Have you ever been in a situation where you feel like, oh my gosh, that person just used me or just wasted my time, or that organization just wasted my time, or that phone call just wasted my time. Now, I'm not talking about judging someone or having a bad interaction with somebody or having an attitude. I literally mean where you realize that you should have said no to something, where you realize that that wasn't a healthy choice for you, where you realize that you were in a place that maybe didn't fit you. That happens to us. And when it does, we are frustrated. There are times in our life where we feel used. Now, why does that matter? Because we only have so much time. Why does it matter? Because we should make the right choices of where we invest our energy, our gifts, and our talents. Listen, God gives us a measure of influence. I talk about it in my book on the chapter of understanding influence. There's a word called metron in the Bible, which is your measure of influence. He gives us people to influence, and that circle may start out small and it continues to grow as our gifts and our talents grow and we pursue our purpose. But it is a circle. It isn't everyone. We are not meant to meet the needs of everyone. We are not meant to give our gifts and talents to just anyone and everyone. And it's not that we're holding them back to keep them from somebody. It's that we need to understand that we have limited time, limited resources, and we need to find the places, the people, the things, the organizations, the situations in which God wants us to give of our time, to give of our talent, to give of our gifts. So there are times when we don't make that decision well, where we definitely can leave a situation and we feel like we were used and not in a good way. And it's something that is pretty obvious to us. And I sometimes I feel like we don't use that information to say no the next time. So I want to encourage you to say, hey, am I being used here in a good way, or am I being used in a way that is depleting me? So what are the signs? What are the ways that we can tell if we're being used in the way that we should be, or if we are being used in a way that we need to say no to? So the first thing I think, which is an obvious sign for me, is energy levels. And I saw this today in the taping of the show. And I, as a public speaker and a teacher, and I love being in front of an audience, but I feed off the energy. I feed off the energy of someone I'm talking to, even if it's one person. And I have noticed that when I'm with a friend, or when I'm in front of a crowd that I'm supposed to be talking to, if it's the right thing, if I'm being used in my gifts and talents the right way, no matter how physically exhausted I may be after the hours of that teaching, or after a long conversation with someone, or after all the preparation I've done for a public speaking engagement, no matter what, if it's what I'm meant to be doing and I'm being used in the correct way in my gifts and my talents, I feel energized. I may be physically tired, but it's this feedback loop where I am totally energized by what I just did. That's in stark comparison to the depletion you feel when you've been used. The depletion you feel when you're with someone and it's a one-way conversation, always, every time, and there's no giving back. It's just one way. When you are in front of perhaps a group of people who don't understand or want really your gifts or talents, when you're in front of the wrong people, when you're around the wrong people, when you're in the wrong organization, you feel depleted. It's not about the physical exhaustion. It's really more like a spiritual depletion versus feeling energized. Another thing I've seen when I am in front of the right people, when I spend my time wisely with the right people, when I am being used in the right way, is I see change in others, particularly in what I do, because the focus is mindset and getting people to change limiting beliefs and really see their lives change. But I think in general, whenever you're giving of yourself, you should see change in others. You should see positive change in the organization that you're giving to, in the friend that you're talking to, in the spouse that you're talking to, in the group that you're speaking with, or whatever your situation is. Being used correctly in your gifts and talents should result in positive change. But if you're being used in the wrong way, if you're in the wrong place, if you're spending your time with the wrong people in the wrong situation, you won't see positive change. Another thing that is a sign is when you leave an interaction where you have been used in the correct way, where your gifts and talents have been used, where there is a mutual exchange, where it's the people that care to actually honor your gifts and talents. You leave that interaction a bigger person. You leave expanded. You leave with ideas. You leave with creativity. You leave bigger than you came to that situation. You leave smarter. It's really a situation where those people, even though maybe you've been giving of your gifts and talents, you get back from them simply because you're in that sort of environment that you're meant to be in. And again, I'm talking about one-on-one with people and also group settings. I'm talking about your career. I'm talking about organizations that you work with. You should always feel really every day that you're expanding. You're expanding in your mind and your creativity. You're expanding in your intellectual area. Whatever it is, you leave an interaction, you should feel expanded. I feel that way even when I meet with a friend for coffee and there is a mutual exchange and I feel that that person is honoring of my gifts and I'm honoring of theirs. I always feel like when I leave that interaction, I feel expanded. I feel bigger, if you will. I have more insight. Really, when you give of your gifts and talents, it gives you more insight into your gifts and talents so that you actually leave situations where you're being used correctly. Again, on a job, with someone, in front of an organization, whatever it is, you leave that scenario with more insight, with more ideas. Again, part of really feeling expanded instead of feeling just like you've left it all on the table and you leave empty. Because that is when you know you've been used in the wrong way. When you know those aren't people in your life that you're meant to influence. When you know maybe you're with the wrong group or with the wrong organization. And I think every single time that you leave a scenario or you finish a scenario in which you've been used in the right way, where your gifts and talents have been used in the right way, you want to do more of it. You are inspired to do more of it. You are inspired to step it up even more. When your boss on your job uses and honors your gifts and talents in the way that you should be, you're inspired to work harder. You're inspired to push to the next level. But when you're in a scenario where you're being used, you actually want to do less inherently. And I'm not saying all of this so that you can walk into your job tomorrow and say, hey, listen, I feel like you guys are using me and, I demand that this stop and all that. I don't want you to be that way in your career, in your relationships, with friends, whatever, but I want you to be smart about it and start to recognize around you when you derive energy from whom. What scenarios should you be choosing for your gifts and talents where you grow and you're expanded? And what scenarios should you be avoiding? And do it with class and do it with love and do it with gentleness and mercy. But you need to make those decisions. We have limited time, all of us. We have limited things that we can give during any given day. We just have limits from time and space that are put upon us no matter how much we want to do. So choose and choose wisely. I personally want to choose those relationships, those interactions, those scenarios, those business opportunities, all of those options that are about being used correctly. And when I'm being used in the right way, I will give and give and give because what you receive is tenfold. It really is. It's the sowing and the reaping. But our sowing gets disconnected from our reaping when we sow into the wrong place, when we sow into the wrong people. It's not that they're bad people. It's just that they're not our people. So it's wisdom, guys. It's figuring out all of this as you go along your way. Because if you don't, you're going to get frustrated. If you don't, you're going to spend time needlessly in places where you don't grow. And then this is what makes people want to quit. So figure it out. But if it's a person, treat it with kid gloves. Be kind, be merciful. If it's an organization, a career choices, make those decisions now. Always do it with class. Always do it the right way, but do it. You cannot stand still and continue to be depleted and used. Instead, you want to be used in the right way, and you will start to see yourself expand and grow. So I hope and trust that you've understood the difference between the two. I can tell you it's something that I lead with in my life. And as I continue to grow and expand, it will become even more and more important to me. And I want to respect that in other people's lives as well. So I hope you guys that this is helpful to you. Connect with me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. All that information is on my website at elizabethnader.com. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast. I do them weekly. They're short, usually just enough to give you some inspiration for the week. And you'll hear interviews every now and then that will make you just really appreciate the different people in this world and their experiences and help you understand things that are going on in your life. So I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so that we can talk every week. And also don't forget to join the community on Facebook where there is inspiration happening every single day. I can't wait to get back to the podcast next week, and I will see you guys in the meantime, hopefully online. Have a fabulous week and make sure that you're being used in the right way, and you will see great results in your life. God bless you guys.
Thank you for listening to Master Your Mindset Radio. Before you go, if you want to be part of a free online community of like-minded individuals for support, resources, and inspiration as you conquer your limiting beliefs and pursue your purpose, go to elizabethnader.com/community. That's elizabethnader.com/community, or search for Master Your Mindset Academy private group on Facebook. Looking forward to seeing you online.